But in closing, you will have found in your newsletter that came with this tape not only the printout from James White's comments on William Miller's dream that we looked at in our last presentation, but you'll find a statement by Ellen White about the year 1908, and that's the title of this passage. And you might call this Adventist Apocrypha because the White estate doesn't record it anywhere as official Ellen White, but it has been confirmed from a variety of methods that this is a genuine story. And we're going to read a paragraph that is set forth as a statement by Sister White, though not endorsed by the White estate, not confirmed as something that you could genuinely include in the embodiment of the spirit of prophecy. And we're going to look at this paragraph because virtually every principle or idea that is in this paragraph you can confirm from another source in the spirit of prophecy. So you're not challenging the spirit of prophecy by coming up with any new or strange idea. But what you're doing with this paragraph is really tying together some ideas that can be found throughout the spirit of prophecy in a very neat package. Now, this letter we're going to read is written, it's a statement by a brother who had a friend who had talked with Sister White about end-time events. And this letter is self-explanatory, but it's going to describe a windstorm that's going to hit Adventism. And in our next presentation, we're going to look more closely at the principles that are in this statement, and you'll see them upheld in the spirit of prophecy very clearly, and it will tie in that this windstorm is the Sunday law, and this is where the church is purified, and it will also begin to develop one of the themes that's in this particular paragraph, and that is that at that time period the Lord takes the work into His own hands by raising up men from the common walks of life. So I'm going to read this letter that was not written by Ellen White. It was written by, it has a statement by Will Ross and also Elmer M. Johnson, and it's self-explanatory. Brother Will Ross, now deceased, was a personal friend of mine and an acquaintance of about 45 years. In our church fellowship, we frequently spent our Sabbath afternoons discussing his experiences in the message and his conversations with Mrs. Ellen G. White. About 1908, while in Loma Linda and living near Sister White, he would frequently accompany her in her walks and would discuss the message and future events. On one of these walks together, and while waiting at the Loma Linda Railroad Depot in the company of Sister McKentifer and Elder D.E. Robinson, her granddaughter's husband, Sister White related to the three of them about the storm of persecution that was coming upon the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Will Ross related it to me as follows. Sister White told us, as we three stood there on the railroad depot platform, that a terrible storm of persecution was coming just like a windstorm, that blew down every object that was standing. There was not a Seventh-day Adventist to be seen. They, like the disciples, forsook Christ and fled. All who sought positions were never seen anymore. After the storm there was a calm. Then the Adventists arose like a great flock of sheep that were without shepherds. They all united in earnest prayer for help and wisdom, and the Lord answered them by helping them choose leaders among them who had never sought position before. They prayed earnestly for the aid of the Holy Spirit which was poured out upon them, making them fully ready for service. They then went forth, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners, to give the message to all the world. End quote. I was astonished and asked if that applied to Loma Linda as we were looking that way. Sister White replied to my question by stating that it applied to the entire denominational world. It so stunned me that I did not ask any more questions. Signed, Will Ross, Boulder, Colorado. In the year 1943, Elder D.E. Robinson was visiting the churches of Colorado. I was serving as the elder on the platform that Sabbath that Elder Robinson visited and spoke to the Boulder Seventh-day Adventist Church, and having with him a large Bible which Sister White held in her hand and leafed through during one of her visions. At the close of the service, Brother Ross talked with Elder Robinson and asked him if he remembered when he and Elder Robinson and Sister McKennifer were standing on the depot platform visiting with Sister White, and she related about the terrible windstorm of persecution that was coming upon the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Elder Robinson replied, "Yes, Brother Ross, I remember it." So I documented this reply January 15th, 1946. Not wishing to forget this important narration that was related to me by Brother Ross, I frequently discussed it with him in later years, and his statement never varied. Signed, Elmer N. Johnson. Now, as I've shared this letter from time to time in the past few years, I've had 3 different people come up to me and say that they've had this story confirmed to them by D.E. Robinson while he was still alive. And in our next presentation, we're going to look at some of these themes that are in this, tie them in with what we've been developing about William Miller's dream. A great wind carries the false professors and the false doctrines out the window. And we'll continue to tie this subject together in connection with the overflowing scourge. And we hope that this message is not being perceived as an attack on any human being. This is an identification of what the Lord is telling His people is about to take place. And far be it from me to disregard part of the testimony out of fear of stepping on someone's toes. Isaiah 28 verses 13 and 14 says, "Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem." Jerusalem, Mount Zion, the glorious holy mountain, there are several terms in the Bible that identify Jerusalem. One of the most important rules in Bible prophecy is that prophecy that is come to pass prior to the cross is understood in its literal setting. Prophecy that comes to pass after the time period of the cross is understood in its spiritual setting. And a passage in the Bible that was speaking about Jerusalem before the time period of the cross would be speaking about literal Jerusalem. But in the day in which we live, after the cross, a passage as Isaiah 28 is, speaking about Jerusalem, is speaking about not literal Jerusalem that's in Israel today, it's speaking about spiritual Jerusalem. God's church today. The Seventh-day Adventist church. So this passage says, "Wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people in the Seventh-day Adventist church." We have made a covenant with death instead of a covenant of life. And with hell we are in agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come upon us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood we have hid ourselves. For we have covered ourselves up with sand and cuttings and rubbish, in the words of William Miller's dream.